Drive and kick was an act of desperation in the past. A complete act of desperation. You drove it to the basket. You have absolutely nothing to do with the basketball. You can't go up with a shot. You can't put it on the floor again. You can't change pivot feet. You are fucked. You're in the paint. When you have a 2 count. 1, 2, 3. And now you fire one out to the corner and hope the fat kid makes a shot. A guy that's not even involved in the play. That's a drive and kick. I mean, I guess it's a legitimate NBA play now, and it might be on the college level, but wasn't it usually the result of just a failed maneuver to the basket?
It is funny you're saying that because it's now, and most of my life, it's been an offensive play. But you're right. Like normally, you never went to the basket trying to pass.
No.
Why would you go to the basket?
Well, you might make a dish under the basket.
No,
but you weren't firing it out to the corner at the top of the key.
No, you go to the basket for a layup, then like, oh fuck, there's nowhere to go. Oh, he's open, thank God.
Yeah. You had to contort yourself, to go ahead and try to make a pass out there, and you were lucky if your team ended up receiving the pass.
Yep.
For all of the analysis, and then this philosophical BS that they run by Spolster. Well, you know what? The team felt like it was undervalued going into the season, and a lot of your players have had to take therapy to deal with the fact that they're a bunch of fucking scrubs. Eric, how do you address that, before game 2 when you're already down? Like Aristotle on the podium there, and says something that seems, right out of the Riley book. I mean, did Riley just leave him his own Haftorah to read?
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
I can't say it anymore, huh? Got tongue twisted. But mitzvah sav, whatever that was. May as well be speaking in tongues today. Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest, one Mike Lubie Lubitz. And we said it earlier this morning on our Defo and 5. And I think it really is. If you were going to prioritize, people were always on our case, Lubie, and you were more inclined to say, yeah, we ought to do more of that. About show preparation, where you would organize in your mind what it was that you were going to say before you got to the podium there, so to speak, before you turned on the microphone and it came on, the little light that came on and said live on the air, and you had some idea about where it was going to start and what the order of priority of stories was going to be. Which, I mean, it's somewhat self-explanatory in sports, is it not, Mike Lubitz? Is it hard to pick out what the big stories are? And in this case, I think it's clear cut. If it's not the Heat, which they go against the Denver Nuggets tonight, this is a international story. I mean, beyond the scope of what you can imagine. They're up at 3 a.m. in Serbia going, come on, Nikola, hook shot. Do they talk like that in Serbia? I don't know. They probably speak like much more fluently than I indicated there. Why do we think that all Europeans are speaking English in kind of... what would you say? Diminished intellectual terms. Yeah. Unbelievable. But anyway, it's a big international event. The Heat and the Denver Nuggets NBA championship. Heat. Some people are saying that the Heat have seized control of the series. Libby, seized control. What do you say? Seized control. Seems a bit strong because they could easily get blown out tonight, or they could just as well. I mean, does anybody have a finger on the pulse of what is going to transpire in tonight's ballgame? The odds makers think, you know what? Let's make it close, right? 2 and a hook. The Nuggets favored by on the road. They were a decent road team, I would imagine, throughout the course of the year. They had a hell of a upside record at home. So what'd they have? Like their win total was in the 50s, wasn't it, Lubie? It wasn't like they won 70 games this year.
No.
So anyway, Heat, very tough at home. We know that for a fact. Have they lost home games in the postseason? Yes. Is it possible they lose tonight? Yes. Most would figure, most handicappers would say, well, looks to me like they'll probably split these 2 games. But we shall see. Have the Heat found a formula to diffuse what looked to be a juggernaut, impossible to stop offense in the Denver Nuggets? Or have they just managed to muster up enough offense of their own to offset what it is that Denver does? And what little diffusing they were doing at the defensive end of the court was just enough
yeah,
to beat a backbreaker.
Yeah.
What do you think? Were they denying guys cutting to the basket? Was that part of the thing? I mean, Spoelstra, I'm trying to figure out where it is that Spoelstra is coming as a genius. And all of these other coaches that have fallen before him have ended up either getting fired or looking like chumps. It's incredible. I mean, the wake that this guy is creating of bodies, there's carnage all throughout the postseason as everybody's looking at it and going, wait a minute, man, these guys were an eighth seed. They suck. But suddenly, a bunch of Scribinis have bonded together and, now have people thinking that, and I was reading an article about it this morning, that they are in control of the series. That they are in the sense of, it's not really mythical. I mean, it's legitimate, but the home court advantage now, theoretically, is 3 out of 5 in favor of the Miami Heat. That represents quite a significant turnaround, you would have to say, from Denver holding that advantage in a 4 out of 7 series. Now, Denver wins one game. Guess what? Bingo. The whole thing goes back. So, what does that make tonight's game? Pivotal. But that being said, if it's not the Heat, it's the hypocrisy, Lubie. This is one of the most stunning sports stories I've ever seen. I know maybe it's not totally mainstream. Talking about the PGA Tour, but with all the screaming, the rhetoric, and the disparaging things that were being said about players on both sides and the fingers that were being pointed, most of which were being pointed at the Sheik himself, right? Prince El Hashim von Schmink, or whatever his name is, just kind of sits up there on top of the Saudi throne and says, I don't want to see that man around anymore.
Exactly.
And people go out and like carve up a guy. This is not a joke. I mean, literally, like cut him up into little pieces, as if it was like John Gotti ordering a hit, because he was saying things. I don't think you should be talking against the family anymore, there, Khashoggi. Huh? They didn't care for what he was writing as a journalist.
I mean,
unbelievable. All right, so that's just one thing. That's nothing. I mean, it's almost insignificant. It's hard to say a man being like lured into his own death, and at the embassy, no less. Right? He walks into wasn't that at the Saudi Arabian embassy or something, and the American embassy, and I guess it wouldn't have been the American embassy, but wherever it was that they sent him, all of a sudden, next thing you know, he's in the back room and he's in pieces. But the human, atrocities that are committed on just an ongoing, regular, and very, distinct basis in Saudi Arabia. I mean, can you overlook them because they run a golf tour? I didn't think that was going to happen. In fact, if anything, the Live Tour brought more attention to those things than it did, a distraction and, some kind of, platform where the Saudis were saying, see what good we're doing? We've got Phil Mickelson out here shanking shots.
See what good
with Donnie Trump riding around his little golf cart with his stupid looking red hat on. Nobody looks worse in a baseball cap than you, fat face. Some people don't look good in hats, Lubie.
Yeah, it's fine. Some people don't look good in anything.
Yeah. That hair, too, is taking on some new strange dimensions if you're looking old Donnie boy. But how could this be, Mike Lubie Lubitz? We talk about the bogus press conferences that, at least in my time that I attended here in South Florida, where the premise was so lame, so far-fetched that, like, nobody could have actually thought that you were being serious, whoever the presenter was, about the idea that, like, Don Shula wanted to retire from coaching, where he thought he had at least one more, if not many more championships still left in his blood. And was capable of winning them. And, whatever they needed to do, the Dolphins were going to do it to try and get Don to end his career on a high note. So instead, he walks in one day to Wayne Huizinga's office while Wayne is being pressured immensely by fans and media and anybody that had an opinion on such things to say, you better dump the old man and get Jimmy in here. And what does Wayne do? He was a man of conviction in terms of, if I set my mind to something, it's going to get done. He convinces Don Shula, how much money did it take? How much did he give Don Shula to go away? I don't think you could buy Don Shula at that point, could you? He had his own steakhouse, for God's sake. He was charging $8 at the time for a baked potato. Unbelievable. Which would be a bargain today, right, Lubie? What would a baked potato be in a steakhouse? Like 15? 12?
It's like 8 to 10, I would say. Yeah, 8 to 10.
No, 8's an ancient price on a baked potato in a high-end
Really?
steakhouse.
Just a potato? I mean,
just a potato. Like if you just wanted a side of a potato, you were there with a date who didn't eat meat, and she said, "What else can I have?" No, we're out of the asparagus. How about a baked potato? It would be like $8, right? I remember making a comment about that. That was 40 years ago, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Then maybe it's 12 to 15. I know the sides like mac and cheese. Some of these sides that are more shareable at these steakhouses are 12 to 15. But I don't think of a big.
I hardly consider those sides shareable. Don't you feel like? Listen, there's not enough there for the two of us.
Well, see, for me and my wife, we're not the biggest eaters. They're shareable. I just don't think of a baked potato as and I get it. Some of these really big potatoes, do you really need to eat a whole one? You eat a half. I get it. I don't know. I didn't put a baked potato on the same plane, but I guess Mayo.
We got expertise here from Mike Mayo. The
same way you're saying. It used to be
12 to 15.
Now it's up 12 to 15. Yeah, I guess that's a fully loaded one, and I guess at a steakhouse are usually really big. I don't know.
Point being, at $8 a pop, Shula didn't need the money from Wayne Sr. to go away
financially. I'm sure Wayne still offered him a crap load, and as we see, money rules all. So no matter where you are, you can always take more.
But rarely, I mean, that came. It was the premise that was a surprise, not the fact that it happened. I mean, there was a lot of sentiment that Wayne was going to eventually get rid of Shula and bring in Jimmy Johnson, and so he did. And then, the other two that stick out for me, and we've mentioned them many times, it was inconceivable that Ron Rothstein was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. I mean, he could have well deserved to have been, based on the way that the Miami Heat were playing under his leadership, and it wasn't his fault. He had no talent, right? You're counting on Scott Hastings to make shots out of the corner there with the game on the line. Get out of here. The fact that you were even in a game was, testimony and testament to the brilliance of Ron Rothstein's coaching. And listen, when we have Ron on the show now at 80-something years old, does he still not seem like he is Mr. Basketball? Like he could have been doing those Red on Round Ball shows many years ago, halftime of NBA games? Well, little Johnny, you want to dribble to your left and then switch back to your right hand? Okay, Red.
Oh, no, Ron's so I mean, what? Look, Van Gundy, the Ron Rothstein was...
And the Van Gundy one, man, that was...
I remember Shula, and my dad was one of those people that said the game had passed him by. So that him leaving wasn't the shock. He was pretty open. I don't know if he said in the media, but it was pretty well known he didn't want Jimmy Johnson.
He would have rather had Nick Saban become the coach of the team. I don't think he hated Saban at that time.
No. Well, Saban wasn't anything at that time. He wanted nothing to do with Jimmy Johnson. So for him to not only leave, but he picked Jimmy Johnson as his successor.
Yes.
Like that was
embraced him.
Laughable. Yes. And then the Van Gundy. The Van Gundy was literally,
oh my God.
They were a quarter away. Look, Dwayne Wade was a shell of himself because he had fucking hurt his shoulder. And they still were like minutes away from getting to the NBA Finals. And he's going to say, you know what? Now I
miss my daughter.
I can't do this. And then 2 years later, he's coaching the Magic into the NBA Finals. I mean, or 3 years later, like, come on. Like, the whole thing was...
that was insane. I mean, but that was just a false premise. This came out of nowhere. The Mayo Man sends us a text, and it's a New York Times article about the merger of the PGA and the Live Tour, which also, I guess, included a merger with the DP World Tour, which I'm assuming is some cockamamie European tour with a bunch of, cross-eyed Irishmen that are out there hitting with bamboo shafts. No? I don't know. What is a DP World Tour?
I've never heard of it at all.
Yeah.
Never. I've never heard that thing in my life.
Did they also incorporate like Barnum and Bailey? I don't know. Who else was involved in this merger? Because they may as well have just included some circus clowns in this thing. I mean, Jay Monahan, a very sanctimonious PGA commissioner, could not have been more adamant about the fact that he despised the entire notion of all of this Saudi blood money coming into the game of golf. And, here is the money of terrorists, of people that are a disgrace in terms of human rights, have, been just guilty of immense numbers of atrocities. And yet, I mean, they were going to come into the game of golf, and it could not have been, more of a source of, just outrage on the part of the PGA players. The guys who left the PGA Tour, what were labeled as blood-sucking scabs, they didn't want any part of them anymore. They weren't going to be on any U.S. represented teams representing the U.S. on various teams, Ryder Cup and all of that stuff. It was a disgrace. These were guys that were considered to be, fairly popular, I guess. Dustin Johnson was a popular guy, if not just for the fact that you, were hopeful to get a glimpse of Paul Gretzky alone. Dustin Johnson. And not, he reminds me of Jim Jensen, doesn't he? Like a young Jim Jensen. Remember Crash? Does he look a little bit like Crash Jensen in his kind of demeanor and everything? A top-notch golfer, no question. A guy that, maybe wasn't quite getting the best of results, but was always knocking on the door, and certainly was going to be prominent in any big event at that time. He leaves. Brooks Koepka was, winning majors one after another, as he did again with the PGA. Was a dominant force there for a while, then suffered some injuries. So I don't know. Maybe people weren't as sure that Brooks Koepka was going to bounce back to this level after he left the PGA Tour. So they thought, okay, well, he's never going to be as good as he was, so may as well take the money from the Saudis there if that's what he's trying to do and cash in. But you had to do this without a conscience, correct? That was the assertion.
Yes, look, I mean, first of all, Koepka's now gone on to almost win the Masters and now win the PGA. So it's worked out okay for him. The people who left were scumbags. The people who stayed were principled individuals who turned down crap loads of money.
Yes, could not be bought.
So now they have to still play for the live without that extra. Like if you're
Tiger, insane.
Like how do you now go and play? Like how do you now?
But I mean, as recently as a couple of weeks ago at the PGA tournament, there was not even the slightest inclination that anything like this was even remotely in the works. It was the same stuff, right? Well, Rory McIlroy is also dealing with the pressure of being the face of the PGA and its battle and its war with the Live Tour and their total lack of principles. So, and Jay Moynihan is, literally, I mean, standing in front of like the 9/11 memorial and saying, we would never consider doing anything like this, selling out to these cocksuckers, right? I mean, if the players want to go and do that, I don't know how they sleep at night.
Exactly. That's my problem. It's not even.
How can they tell their children,
It wasn't like after, like when an NBA, like a coach bitches about the refs, but they sort of try to play it nice. And they're like, yeah, some of the things out there are a little questionable, but you just play the game. Like if the PGA had done that, said, look, this isn't really what we are about, but they were literally calling them fucking assholes and saying they're pieces of shit. And
scumbags, scabs,
and
losers.
We could never, who would ever, what? Come on, man. And then less than a year,
less than an hour.
Like, what the hell?
Nobody knew this was happening. That was the amazing thing. A handful of people, if that. Greg Norman had no idea. He was the big spokesperson, the president of the Live Tour. He had no idea this is happening. He gets a call like half an hour before this Rahman von Shaman or whatever his name is goes on. And I'm not butchering the guy's name on purpose. I can't read my own writing here. Yasir El Ramayan. Are you familiar with him? I mean, is he up there with like Bob Tosky in the annals of golf history? What is the connection of Yasir El Ramayan to the game of golf? Who now, I mean, has dedicated his whole life all of a sudden, this guy, to growing the game of golf because it's such a wonderful sport. My God. I mean, the sellout of the guys, this is, how embarrassing is this for Jay Monahan? How many millions must he have tucked away? This reeks of Ron DeSantis with the Seminoles. Oh, yeah. And all of a sudden, they're the only people that have gambling in the sport, in the state, sports gambling. And, I mean, it's like, wait a minute, where did this come from? When did you guys meet? Where was the, talking to legislature about this? Unbelievable. So out of nowhere, though, that's the thing. I mean, a complete surprise. I have never been bowled over by a sports story where there was not even the slightest inclination to believe that this was ever going to happen.
Look, it was failing. What do you mean? Like, we were joking. The PJ's actually done really well the last two majors, the Masters and the PGA.
I mean, the Live Tour guys, yeah, they've done all right. Yeah,
I'm just talking about like people had talked about the PGA Tour, like it was, I think, doing decent. I don't think it was doing horrible. The Live was a disaster. Like literally, we had just talked about it like a month ago. Is it still going on? Do they still have tournaments? When are these tournaments? Is anyone watching? Like literally, if they whatever ratings they were getting were an abomination. Like it was a total disaster. That's the last we talked about it.
Yeah.
From that to this, it's like what?
Like, well, what? And with the AFL and the ABA, which ended up eventually forcing partial mergers with the bigger league that they were taking on. Now it didn't happen with the USFL. That seemed to be one of their goals, which I guess your boy Donnie Trump was trying to steer him into that. That was a big thing because he wanted to own an NFL team. He was so desperate, to have this as part of his identity. that many people, and we did get some insight into this from our dear friend who may he rest in peace, former neighbor of mine named Jim McKinley, who was with the Oklahoma Outlaws in the USFL, right? Oklahoma Outlaws, that was the name of the team. And I know he was saying that things were fine until the Trumpster got involved and was trying to force and forge this merger, to have as many teams as possible absorbed by the National Football League, which, what did they have? Like, how many teams were absorbed out of the ABA? Three?
Wasn't it four? That
Three,
one,
4, 5? I don't know.
Arnie showed us. It was the Pacers, the Spurs.
And the AFL, came in and, they, were all of the teams picked up by the NFL? When
I
the
think that was a
AFL?
total merger. I think that was a total merger.
NHL, didn't have any merger issues when they were approached, and being contested with other leagues that came into existence. And it was the same sort of thing, right? When like the World Hockey League came in, remember? And a few big players, left teams, and everybody's like, oh my God, wow, the money they're paying these guys. And they were viewed as, without the political, wavelengths that associate themselves around the Saudis, that they were considered to be scumbags for leaving, right? Yeah, even what was the league when Zonka and Kick left for what was that league?
That was USFL. What league? That
was that USFL or that's some other football league?
That was before USFL.
Yeah,
USFL was the 80s.
But I mean, you usually see these leagues either fall by the wayside or, but by the time there's actually some kind of absorption and or merger, you're well aware that it's probably about to happen, that it's imminent. No, this, you couldn't have had. They were still pointing fingers and screaming at each other, and expletives and ignoring players, all the way up to the time that this was announced. And then the players have a meeting with Monahan, Jay Monahan, a PGA commissioner, and they're like, "What the fuck did you just do? We didn't take this money to protect you and the whole integrity of the game and all of this stuff, and we won't be bought. $700 million or whatever it was Tiger Woods was offered."
Well, that's the thing I'm curious about this whole thing. We may have to get fined because the one person we talk to regularly that actually is involved with golf still, John Feinstein. So maybe we'll have to get Feinstein back on because maybe he can understand it.
He must be having a field day with this one.
I understand the players don't own the tour, but how can you do something like this without control? Like, how do the players have no say at all? I don't understand.
Not only no say, but are left, literally, hanging.
Like, this isn't the fledgling, okay, the XFL guys, the NFL wants us. The XFL's, oh, fuck, that's amazing. This is the other way around. The PGA Tour is the bigger tour. The majority, the 80 to 90% of the major names are on the PGA Tour. How can you just tell them, yeah, you're fucked? I don't understand how that works. These guys are all the ones, they're the ones that bring in the money, not fucking Monahan.
And then beyond that, with a couple of obvious exceptions, what was the Live Tour except the has-been, a nondescript European schmenk tour?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Right? Are you going to go out of your way to see Usti post a 3 over, at some course with Trump riding around, literally, in that stupid white shirt that doesn't hide much of the fat there, Danny boy, and the red hat, and as we said, nobody looks dumber in a baseball hat than Donald Trump. Does he realize that?
He doesn't care.
No,
I think he does it on purpose. He wants to see how bad he can look and pretend he looks good and see how many people go along with it.
It especially looks bad if you're wearing that blue suit, that he's always wearing, which I would imagine he has several of those, right? It's like, does Bob Kraft does he have more than one of those shirts with the white collar? Or does he just wear that all the time? Even when being arrested, he had that shirt on. It was incredible. Anyway, that was a shocker of a story. The ramifications of which are what, Mike Lubie Lubitz? Are you going to be more or less inclined to watch golf? You weren't inclined to watch it anyway. There was always this opinion of golfers, that most of them were just like distant, decadent, people as athletes that you really wouldn't want to, get to know too well anyway. The lifestyle they lead is incredible. Having witnessed it, just that one time that we crashed a breakfast buffet of the Players Lounge at Doral alone, and you're looking and going, this is how these guys live, right? got a courtesy car every place they go. They step out of a private jet. Next thing you know, they're in the behind the wheel of a Mercedes, which not even behind a wheel. They got somebody driving them everywhere they want to go. South Beach, please, and step on it.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Stewart. Well, we'll take you right there. All right. Where'd you get the hat, by the way, Payne? Why am I bringing in a dead guy into the conversation here? What is fucking wrong with me, Lubie?
Guy that dies, the guy you talking
I don't know. Shocker, man. Public investment fund, $600 billion. Is that right? Is it 60 billion or 600 billion? I think it's 600 billion they have in this thing. Is that possible?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the money supposedly is
Public investment fund.
ridiculous that they have, and
but it's enough money to take everybody in the country and have them live the most lavish lifestyle, no matter how impoverished or how oppressed they are by the Saudi government. I mean, the sports washing thing. You won't hear that around here anymore, will you? Old Jay Monahan.
Yeah, exactly.
9/11 people, they're fuming. Saying, "Hey, how could you possibly use us in that fashion and then go sell out to the Saudi government?" Incredible. Wild story. Hey, we have to get Feinstein would be perfect on that.
Yeah, I just reached out to him. I'm hoping we can get him on sometime this week. Because he at least still calls. I think he still calls golf. I know he still writes about it. He's still highly involved in it.
He had that good book, Good Walk Spoiled. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's done a lot more since then. That was years ago. But I know he's still involved in the world of golf, and he has a strong opinion on mostly everything. And we've definitely talked about the live thing. He thought it was ridiculous. I just think the grandstanding is my biggest issue because, again, we've realized most of us are indirectly involved with entities that we'd be sick to know what they're doing. I can't fight that. But, again, like we talked about, to be directly involved is different. And then to stand up. Now, look, I can't even be mad at the people that went because the people that stayed now are going to be playing with these goddamn people. And at least people that went got hundreds of millions. At least guys that were done, like Poulter and Weestason, who were done, got hundreds of millions. Good for them. Yes. Yeah. Fuck it. They're all going to be playing for it. And Tiger turned down 800. Like, he looks like a jackass now. Like Rory.
Rory McIlroy, all of the things that, I mean, he was, held up by Monahan to be the poster child for all of this acrimony. And, he had, I would say that, I know my own opinion was extremely negative about the Live Tour players, maybe unjustly so. Certainly it looks that way now, doesn't it? Although in this case, how did Jay Monahan have the wherewithal to go ahead and just openly defy what you would have to think was the overwhelming sentiment of all of the membership of the players on the PGA Tour? Apparently they were screaming and yelling words. I don't know, how offended was Monahan? How many millions did he take to, just shrug off and shield himself from the idea that he was a flaming hypocrite? What do you think, Libby? 50? How many millions? That'll be the question of the day. There it is. How many millions did Jay Monahan take from the Saudis to sell out everybody on the PGA Tour and make them all look like asses? Incredible. These guys don't like to be shamed like that either, do they?
No, the whole point is why some of these guys didn't go is because they actually had principles.
Yeah.
In a world that no one has principles, they're like, look, we have so much money. I won't know the difference if I have this or I don't have this. So let me at least look good.
And it was also, that this was also being proliferated by the PGA, the kind of sentiment that, well, you know what? We made you what you are, and now you're going to turn your back on us and go with these clowns, these Saudis, these murderers. Well, wasn't there some of that sentiment attached to every news of every defection and every departure? It was like, yeah, Patrick Reed, huh? What would he be without the PGA Tour?
There was always a comment. That's literally my issue here is if you know something could be a possibility down the road, just shut up. Shut up. Say whatever. That's their right to do what they want to do. We're going to do what we want to do. Good luck to them. They didn't. They did the opposite. They fucking crowed and made these big deals of every player. Oh, look at Cam Smith. Yeah. What a scumbag. Like, pick. You can't. To me, having it both ways is my biggest issue. You want to go work with the scumbags? Fine.
They wouldn't let them play on American teams.
They were turning them down.
Think about it. I mean, you have like some of the best golfers, Koepka and Dustin Johnson, and you're saying, the Ryder Cup means a lot to us, but you turncoat scumbags, Saudi blood-sucking mother mofos, we don't want you around the team, huh? You got to be kidding me, man. Total lack of principle. Everything that they were saying. This reduced what they were saying down to being no more profound or meaningful than a common professional wrestling feud.
Yes,
Right?
That's exactly what it is. They're like, "Oh my God, I hate that man," and then the next time you see, "What a tag team! We never thought." It's like,
Yeah, I mean, later on you see them at Denny's, and they're sharing a grand slam together while sitting on the same side of the
and
table.
Hulk Hogan are killing each other, and then in a turn of events we never would have imagined, Ric Flair and Hulk are embracing. It's
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Yes.
All of a sudden, McMahon is, in the corner of Gorilla Monsoon over San Martino. All right, we have the Heat in Denver tonight. We'll get into that. This was a shocker of a story, and it reeks of everything that's wrong with the sports. And unfortunately, we poor suckers, the sports fan, who are asked to buy into a whole lot of bullshit, as it turns out. And I'm a golf fan. I enjoy watching golf. I like betting on golf. I've always followed it, whether I was betting on it or not. I became like everybody did at one point in time that moves to Florida, obsessed with the game of golf, and couldn't get enough. I mean, we were playing 36 holes a day, Lubie. Very badly, but we were playing 36 holes a day.
Yeah, there's courses everywhere, and they're great. The schmankiest course is like well manicured and looks like it's freaking in a movie. I mean, we're in South Florida. That's what we do.
I'm not sure I would describe the Hollywood Lakes layout at the time as well manicured.
I've been to some schmanky ones where even they are actually pretty solid.
Muck and muck was more like it. Yeah, you could lose a ball in the fairway. Where is it, man? I know. Went right down the middle. No, it didn't, Defo. You're in the woods. No, I swear to God, I followed the ball. Might have been a grounder, but it was in the fairway.
It just fell into
Is there anything worse than hitting that two hopper to short? Right, you just chop it down, right? Like you were Louis Rice, man. Just make sure the bat doesn't, pop that ball in the air, so it's just a cheap can of corn fly ball to center field. No, boom, slashing another line drive through the infield. Incredible. 401, Lubie. What do you make of that? Marlins 5 in a row.
The guy that slowly but surely, Kim Mang is putting her imprint on the club.
Fucking Buzzy Bavasi, this woman. Unbelievable.
Luzardo was great again.
I don't think she looks anything like Buzzy Bavasi, who looked like his name sounded. Buzzy Bavasi. It was one of the first interviews I ever did. Was funny. With a guy named Buzzy Bavasi, if you can imagine, right? Very enterprising on my part. I sought him out there. I was with the Angels at the time. But anyway, I know. I will say this, though. I mean, after watching all of this playoff stuff, and especially with the local teams involved, and you have a much more attentive interest in a game when you have a team from South Florida here playing in the finals in the NBA and also the NHL. And after watching this action, both the hockey and basketball, the way and this game went by quickly yesterday, Lubie. Jim Sarney sent me a text. They were already in the 6th inning. The game wasn't even an hour old.
Jeez.
Okay, but the pace was so dawdling by comparison to any other sport, and the crowd still is ripe with indifference. Where you got a few people behind home plate. Are those even real people, or are they just being generated by artificial intelligence to make it look like there's a crowd there?
I presume they're real. I wouldn't put it past anyone in South Florida to put fake fans.
A phony crowd, yeah. I mean, never mind the birds at the Masters there at Amen Corner. Woo, woo, ah, ah. All of a sudden you hear a bird that's only in like some Nigerian jungle and, just happens to be there in Georgia for the weekend. A whole flock of them, in fact, flew into town. Unbelievable. It was amazing. They even took a shit on John Daly's head as he was signing autographs. Woo, woo, ah, ah. Jungle birds at Amen Corner. What if they had the wrong soundtrack? You've punched it up. You know what this is like, Louie. Look, you're trying to punch up 16 different things now, right? But what if they did that, right? Where instead of like the sweet tweeting of hummingbirds or whatever, they had jungle birds all of a sudden.
They had gorillas and they had lions and tigers.
That'd be great, man. We ought to produce our own version of.
I did. It was classic.
Yeah. Do you still have that thing?
I can find it somewhere. I don't know.
All right, we ought to go ahead and entertain. resurrecting that particular clip. All right, Dave Hyde's going to join us here in a couple of minutes. Hialeah Park, great place to go anytime of the day or night. Absolutely fantastic. Slot machines are humming. Steve Calabro wouldn't have it any other way. He's calibrated those machines. It's interesting that the root of his last name is with a calibration kind of concept. Where, let's face it, man, I mean, if the machines are returning only a small portion of your money, you're probably going to lose your money. But if they're returning the most generous allotment that you can possibly find, then there's a nice chance that maybe, your money cycles into the right place and boom, there you go, $20,000 jackpot. A lot of people are winning big money at Hialeah Park because they're very generous with the way their slots pay out. Have all your favorite Vegas-style games, an exquisite poker room, great simulcasting room. Have the Belmont Stakes coming up. That wasn't the official field I was looking at yesterday, Lubie. There have been amendments to that, but I don't know. Does it really... This race seems to be very much in the background, except for Forte is the curiosity point. Can Forte really be the super horse that everybody thought that he was going to be?
Yeah, that's what I'm intrigued by. He was like the favorite heading into the Derby.
Would have been the favorite for the Derby, yes. And some people questioned that, but others were boldly going to say that this horse was Triple Crown material. Triple Crown needs to change, though, doesn't it? I'm now an advocate for that.
What does that
The time between races, I mean, just it's not conducive to.
make it longer or shorter?
They should space out the races at least a month apart.
I was gonna say, why not drag it out if you're smarter? Like that's the only time.
For the sake of the horse's health, I mean, it's a lot to ask. Yeah.
If first of all, the health is the most important thing. So if that would help the horses and keep the game alive, keep the game going, keep the game.
It's long been debated. I don't know that it's going to change. The whole thing. I'm not sure that the structure of the Triple Crown had so much to do with these deaths at Churchill Downs. I think that was probably something, that was working there. What did Mike Mayo say? It was a case of backstretch herpes or something? I don't know. He had something. COVID-19, yeah.
A late reaction to COVID. Like that they had gotten COVID.
It could be. I don't know. What am I? Like, Dr. Fauci of veterinarians? No, I don't know what the hell it is. But anyway, the races should probably be like a month apart. Yeah, I think 2 weeks to run after running in the Derby, and then 3 more weeks and you're in the Belmont Stakes. That's 3 arduous races against big fields usually in a 5-week span. You don't see horses of this caliber running like that. So why put them through that at 3 years old? When they're still relatively, I guess, halfway through their 3-year-old season. It's crazy. All right, we're coming back with more. Dave Hyde going to join us here. We'll get a perspective on both of these local playoff series, including tonight's game, Heat and the Denver Nuggets. Tony Segreto at 8 o'clock. We'll do a little old school with Tony Segreto, and then we'll be with you up until 9 o'clock today. 12 o'clock, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, which is always, it's an adventure, you would have to say, a culinary adventure. And that's coming up at 12. And we'll be back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time
It's 7:39.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Recently realized.
The world, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten me sugar nut.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, Jeff DeForest. We got Mike Lubie Lubitz. Happy to have you with us here on South Florida Live, or various other platforms around the country and around the world. And this guy is well-renowned, one of the great sports journalists of all time. If we can do a little Don King intro into this thing, of all time. And currently, I mean, just bopping back and forth between two sensational stories. The Miami Heat and the Florida Panthers, both involved in their championship rounds of their respective sports. We welcome to the show from the South Florida Sun Sentinel, their esteemed columnist, Mr. David Hyde. Dave, how are you, my friend?
I'm feeling a little like the cooler. I went out to Vegas with the Panthers, and look what happened. Look what happened to them. My first road trips with them, and they lose twice on the road for the first time these playoffs. And so it's me, Defo. Put it all on me.
I don't want to do that to you, Dave, because I think you're a good luck charm for the local teams here. I believe that when you're on the on the beat, there's a good chance there's going to be some success. But we talked about this, and I've experienced it many, many times. Lubie, to a far lesser extent, I think he actually had a good time. He's only been out to Vegas a couple of times, but the 2-night, 3-day stay in Las Vegas, I find particularly devastating, and that's what the Panthers were facing more so than anything else. Did you see any of the boys out on the town? I don't know what kind of revelry you were involved in, but let's face it, there are no clocks there, and how many times have you been in Vegas and said, "Oh, geez, it's already 6 a.m. Think I'll catch a little shut-eye and then go down and get the breakfast buffet." But what do you think? I mean, what happened there? We said that Nick Cage left Las Vegas in better shape in the movie.
Yeah, I didn't even know Wayne Newton was still alive, but I went out with him.
Neither did we, man. We had him buried a long time ago.
He showed up. He showed up at the second game. He was. Yeah. They had this. Like the Panthers beat the drum before a game. They do like this.
The siren.
The siren. There you go. And so Wayne Newton was doing the siren, and I was like, "Well, he is alive." Huh? I wasn't sure. So things you learn on a trip to Vegas,
Did you get a good look at that face, though? I mean, it was very prominent on the television screen. I mean, I didn't know what to compare it to, except maybe the first time you put on a condom. It was like,
oh my God,
that thing was really stretched out, Dave. I mean, was that somewhat horrifying when you saw how he looked? I mean, in an effort to look young.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like a somebody, making a forged Van Gogh, where the paint is.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks like it looks like what you remember, but it's not exactly it,
The canvas. No, this could not have been around at that time in Italy. Yeah, whatever. I mean, yeah, that was pretty wild. All right, so what happened here? Lubie wants to attribute it to the layoff and the fact that during that layoff, apparently, somebody did, mess with Bobrovsky's eyesight. It did seem to me, I mean, we haven't seen this happen through the playoffs. Even in the Boston series when they were down 3-1, the Panthers, it wasn't like they were being outclassed or outworked, and certainly not out-hustled. And yet it did seem that way in Game 2, much more so than even in Game 1, that the Panthers were just being beaten, at every turn, that they were literally, a tick behind there, a step slow.
Yeah, they, we're not into they turned to a pumpkin stage from the first 3 series, or really this mimics Boston a little if you want to be optimistic, and they looked down and out in Boston and came back, so we'll see. But yeah, they it is the rush game, as they say in hockey, the rush game of Vegas, them coming up the ice in full force, and we're getting to a point with the Panthers with bodies too, because Radko Gudas looks like, all signs point to a concussion from him.
Was he the guy that went flying over somebody at I guess it was the defensive end of the ice or whatever, and he was coming out of his own there? It was sort of off to the side on the television screen. I barely caught it, and it looked like a guy like got catapulted, like he was in a car crash at Indy. Oh, was that Gudis? Was that hit?
Yeah, well, he went to hit somebody, and they put an elbow to his head, and
Okay.
he went down, and so there were a lot of big hits in that game.
Yes.
The hit of Kachuk on Jack Eichel was
wow.
The echo is still going on if you step outside from that one. That was
yes.
So very physical game, and but Vegas, the Panthers defense, was in tatters by the end of that game, and when they have had trouble this series, these playoffs, Bobrovsky has saved them with miracle saves or momentous saves, however you want to put it, and he wasn't doing that this game when the defense fell apart, and so that's how you end up with 7 goals in one night.
Well, and pucks were just whizzing by his ears, and it was really strange to see because he had been, as you said, Dave, sensational before that, and that was Lubie's big problem with it. When was Bobrovsky going to possibly revert back to being Bobrovsky, and maybe there was something to be said for getting out of rhythm there and not playing for 9 days, which. I don't know. I think by game 2, I wouldn't have used that as a reason for the poor performance there in the second game. All right, so how does it turn around here? We have Thursday night for game 3, and that's going to be here. You would think that the home crowd they had about Mike Mayo was actually out there for the performance in front of nobody, and the arena was relatively full. I would imagine that will be turned up exponentially, the excitement quotient, with actually a live game. So what do you think? Can the Panthers turn this around and do it with Bobrovsky still maybe needing a blindfold and the last drag of a cigarette?
No, not if Bobrovsky is, and again, I'm not pinning the blame on him. The defense fell apart, and Vegas, give Vegas credit.
They hustle, yeah.
Of power, coming at you, and their big defense that blocks a lot of shots. So they can turn around just from the fact that they have turned it around. Look at the Boston series, down 3-1, and came back and won that one. So, and the way they dominated the next 2 series shows you that game's in them. They just have to get to that game right away. I mean, there's no room for error here. You go 3-0, and it's all the comparisons to the '96 team stand up. The '96 team got swept, and you lose Thursday night, and that's what you're staring at. So, but yeah, they can come back. They've showed the ability to do it, have the talent. The thing you fear, as much as I agree with Lubie, Bobrovsky was locked in, and that was one of the fears of the layoff is do you lose that? It's almost like you would like to play the next night, not take 9 days off. But the thing you fear a little is if Gudis is out, Mahura looked at her, something was going on there. I don't know what. And so are they going to run out of bodies there at some point?
All right. I mean, how much would this document be worth if you had the expansion list that Dale Talon left with the league, and it was 6 years ago, and there's Jonathan Marchessault's name on the list, and you're thinking that had to be a mistake. What happened there? I kind of like what was it, Anthony Carter's agent, when he failed to send in the option that they were going to pick up, and it was like a half a second past 12, and Riley immediately negated the contract, and they got rid of the guy. I mean, what kind of question could you possibly have posed to Dale Talon about that at the time? Because Marchessault was a 30-goal scorer the year before, or that season. And, how dumb should I feel, Dave Hyde, that I didn't take him to be the Conn Smythe winner as MVP of the playoffs when he's got 12 goals in the last 12 games? And it was I think he was 12-1 to win the trophy.
Really? Yeah. Who'd you take, Kachuk or Bobrovsky, right?
I ended up passing on it, but I was thinking, you know what? The ironies, I mean, you love stories, and obviously when they're laced with ironies, it makes it even easier to write about. I mean, how delicious is this for Marchessault? That, a team that let him go in the expansion draft after a big season, and now maybe 6 years later, in his second trip to the Stanley Cup Finals with this new team, he does them in.
That just fits into the 25-year debacle that were the Panthers, right? I mean,
exclamation point. You're right.
I did a column on this last week that, to appreciate the Panthers, you have to look at all the dumb things they've done. And they tried to take. They had the number 1 pick overall. Alex Ovechkin they want Alex Ovechkin. There's only one problem. He's not draft eligible that year. He's born 2 days too early.
Oh,
so the Panthers they argue loudly to the league that with leap years, he has 40 leap years, he's really okay.
That's funny.
That's a good one.
It's just unbelievable to even. I had to remember all this story. They actually literally, to the point, Rick Dudley went up with the card of Ovechkin in his hand for the number 1 pick. The league talked him down, told him no. Alan Cohen, the owner, is behind it all, and they're still pounding the table for Ovechkin. With the 9th, when it got to the 9th round, they tried to take him again, and the league turned off the microphone. The league turned off the Panthers' microphone because they could not
shut off his mic. Yeah, I've been in that spot.
Then there was a time they instituted a English only rule in the locker room.
Oh, nice.
They had to speak in English because they had guys from different countries, and they were afraid of factions. And then they go out and take a guy from Ukraine. I can't think of his first name or his last. Dennis
Schvidtke.
Schvidtke's Defo Show.
Schvidtke is my favorite player. I still have 1,000 Schvidtke jerseys that I'm selling online.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
He's going to be a big star.
That's what Defo always says. It can't be that name, but it is. And
Schvidtke.
The word of English. He didn't speak the word of English. So, I mean,
his name wasn't even spelled in English. Schvidtke. What the hell? How did you spell that?
There's a million stories like that. And Marchessault fits right into it.
Oh my God!
He had a breakout. Now he did have a 30-goal season, but it was his breakout season. So he hadn't really done it. He was just coming up. He played a couple big years in Tampa, I believe. Yeah. And the Panthers got him. He had a big year, and I guess they weren't believers of that, but that's when they like that. They let Riley Smith go to Vegas too, yes. And really it was a contract dump. They traded him with somebody else's. Can't think of the guy. Someone with a bad contract.
So the ranks to Schvidtke.
Yeah, probably by then. I think Schvidtke played 6 games total.
I can't say Schvidtke enough. I mean, I try to work him into every show somewhere. I'm glad you brought him up, Dave. All right, Lubie's very optimistic about the Miami Heat. I think that kind of like this golf story. I don't know that it came out of nowhere, but the victory in game number 2, down 8 points going into the fourth quarter, where. And the stat, what was kind of startling, Denver had been 32-1 or something like that, right along that number, in spots where they were leading going to the fourth quarter this season and in the postseason. They had only lost one game, and who knows? I mean, the lead could have been marginal, like 1 point. But, they pour it on Denver in the fourth quarter. Is that enough to convince you that they can maybe win both games at home and really take command of the series?
I mean, I don't need convincing that the Heat are going to come at you and come at you and come at you, for 4 quarters, whether they're down what they were in game 1, whatever that was. And they still were playing hard, and they brought to 8 points, I think, in the fourth quarter. Or going into the previous, what they hit their first 11 shots. Is that right? Now, I wasn't
Amazing shooting. Yeah.
It was crazy what they did, and this is a great team. I mean, it's such a rare team in NBA. You know, you look at how NBA teams are built and champions are built. It's such a unique team that a lot of people just aren't seeing that. What a great story it is. It's a phenomenal story of. I call it a team of Spolstras, a team of guys who started in the video room and worked their way up through hard work and talent and taking advantage of opportunities. Now Spolstra is the best in the game, and you look at across the roster, there's all these undrafted guys that work their way up from the video room, and here they are, and it's a great story. And so, you know, nobody across the NBA gave a chance of you know, I was shocked. I was out in Vegas, and I think 40% of the bets I read were on a Denver sweep, on a Vegas sweep. Vegas sweeps everything, but no, on a Denver sweep this series. And so again, the Heat were. You look at the rosters just like you did in the Boston series, the Milwaukee series, and say they got no shot. And yet, that if you watch the team play and watch, you know, the hard manner they play and the way they play together, and the way they can play different games, you know, zone, they and you know, you got different stars coming at you every night. Duncan Robinson has 10 points in the fourth quarter. So can they sweep Denver? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but all I know is I'm not discounting what the Heat can do.
Yeah, I don't think you can at this stage, although Denver goes in tonight a slight favorite, 2.5 points. It's interesting because we were trying to figure out if it was genius on the part of Eric Spoelstra or blind luck that some of these things came about. Where, I mean, I'm thinking, Dave, all season long, Pat Riley had to spend most of his time on the phone to the point where GMs weren't even taking his calls anymore. Where the secretary go, yeah, it's Pat on line too, Riley? And they go, no, tell him I'm out. Because he was probably trying to unload Duncan Robinson and Kyle Lowry along with Dedmon, who we finally did get rid of. But, I mean, these were two guys that looked like just horrendous Dion Waiters type contract losses for the team. And now they're both instrumental in what's going on here, including, you know, a very integral at two different stages of that game where Lowry hit a couple of shots in the second quarter that were key. And then Robinson brought him right back into the game from 8 down immediately in the fourth quarter where they eventually seized control. These were guys that they wanted to cast away, like Tom Hanks.
You know, it's fascinating, the Duncan Robinson story to me.
Yeah.
I was talking to him before the playoffs about his development. And he said when he first came to the Heat from the developmental league, before games, he would sit on the bench, go to the scorer's table as if he was checking. And this is during warm-ups of games. He'd go to the scorer's table as if checking, come in, and they'd run a play, you know, imaginary play for him. And he'd shoot from he'd come off a break and catch the ball, pass from an assistant coach, and shoot. And if the ball went in, then they'd run a next play, and he'd keep going. And if he'd miss, he'd go back to the bench and repeat the process all over. And the idea, obviously, is to simulate what's going to happen to him when he comes into a game. Now, you hear, you know, that he turned into a great three-point shooter. We all know the contract and all that stuff. But look what he did to Denver the other night. He's driving to the basket. He's developed, and you've seen it all playoffs here. When really he got his chance because Tyler Hero was hurt. Tyler Hero isn't hurt. I'm not even sure we hear from Duncan Robinson these playoffs. But you see how he's worked on his game to the point. He's driving hard to the basket, scoring contested layups, things that he couldn't do a couple years ago. And so it's fascinating to me that the way a player develops a game. You know, the biggest example to me in the Heat is LeBron James when he came here. They played in the finals against Dallas. he has no inside game, to the point that Dallas was covering him with that 5'9" guard, and he couldn't take the guy inside. And so that offseason he went and developed an inside game. And I mean, it's hard to imagine that LeBron didn't have an inside game. I remember sitting there watching those finals, thinking, how can he just not take this guy inside? But he didn't know how to play with his back to the basket like that. So, anyways, Lowry's a bit of a shock. You really don't know what you're getting with him. But and now there's, I guess, Hero wasn't cleared to come back. I'm not really sure.
I don't think he's playing tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. He is playing tonight. Okay.
No, he is not. He's not. He's I think been officially ruled out.
That's what I last heard.
Yeah.
So, but who knows? I've seen this could turn on a dime if he all of a sudden he's cleared. Who knows if the Heat are playing games or if they're being right at this point. The question is, what can he bring really at this point? Beyond some minutes, 5-10 minutes a game, which might help rest somebody. But look, Spoelstra's doing it. Spoelstra just flat out coached Joe Mazzulla in a couple games in the Boston series, which just doesn't happen in the NBA like that. And they need, the way he's thrown the zone at Jokic and one game they're making Jokic read the game now, and really they're winning to me at the offensive end. They got outscored Denver, and they were hitting shots, as you said, Lowry and Robinson. I don't know what magic pills they gave them, but it's working right now.
And it once again gives credence to our adage, which is the ultimate essence in terms of basketball analysis: he who makes shot win game. So they ended up winning that thing, and they still had to hang on by a thread there against a game Denver team, which seemed like they kind of went to sleep a little bit beginning of the fourth quarter, and then in a total Reggie Miller-like act of desperation, got back from 11 down in like a minute and change, and had a shot to take it to overtime at the end. Dave, always a pleasure, my friend. Will you be out there tonight at the Heat Denver matchup?
I will be. In fact, we haven't had a game in town since the Big Three left, because the Heat were in the bubble in Orlando last time, and then the Panthers haven't played a championship. So for the next 4 nights, we got championship games in town. It's
gonna be fun. All right. Well, unfortunately, your phone crapped out right around the same time. I think Dave's still talking, but we're gonna have to let him go there. Dave, we love you, man, and sayonara into cyberspace there. Unfortunate, but he's right. Championship games in town for the next 4 games? Is it 4 straight nights?
Yeah.
It is, yeah. Alternating nights? Are you kidding me? The rest of the way?
Yeah, I think it's alternating nights because they've already done their traveling. I think it's Thursday, Friday. Oh, it might be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, possibly.
All right. Another local sports story of some merit here. We have our young lady, Coco Gauff, right as we speak, Lubie, on the court there, French Open quarterfinals against the number 1 seed and the number 1 player in the world, Iga Swiatek, who is a machine. But we'll see if and it's a rematch of the final from last year, I believe, at the French Open, where Coco Gauff, all of a sudden, she put on cement overshoes and, kind of, you would say, maybe couldn't, as Tony Segreto would put it, couldn't handle the moment as well as she would have liked to.
Yes.
But well-schooled now, going against a real tough cat there in Iga Swiatek. We wish her the best. But another South Florida success story here. If this woman makes it to, she's 19 years old. South Florida, grown and raised, and still has her roots here, and could be in the French Open semifinals. While we have 2 teams in the final. It's amazing what's going on here, Libby. Amazing. All right, we're coming back. Tony Segreto is going to join us. A little old school with Tony, and it's always a pleasure having Tony on the show. That's brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, and we'll be back with Tony in a moment. Now that 8:05. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
Tell me, doctor, where are we?
All right, well, once again, everybody, on this fine Wednesday, it's always a pleasure to welcome this gentleman into the program here. Get to spend a few minutes with our good friend, Mr. Tony Segreto, on the show. Tony's appearance always brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants and the great Ed Garcia, who, wow, what a sharp individual this man is. Has a piece of, like, I don't know, a half a dozen or maybe more Texas Roadhouse restaurants. A young man, too. Very energetic. Tony, how are you? How are you this week?
I'm great. How are you?
Well, you're looking good. That sounded good here, my friend. It's good to see you. All right. We talked about this last couple of weeks, and it continues to sustain itself, which is incredible. You'll be happy to know that when you're looking at the position the two teams are in, that Lubie and I both predicted that the Panthers would win the Stanley Cup, and the Heat had no shot to win the Larry O'Brien. So we find ourselves right now, at least on the losing end of both of those propositions. But what do you think so far?
Well, first of all, I have to tell you, from a standpoint of the Heat, it does my heart good. I was there at the beginning. I was there when Pat O'Brien, when they decided they would have a franchise. Yeah, and I remember Lucia Fell and Billy Cunningham sitting in my office and saying, "We gotta, you're gonna help us raise tickets, right?" So we helped them raise tickets, and we helped them go to the owners and say, "Come on, we gotta go into this league," and then the transformation after that. What a ride this has been! What a ride! And then the Stanley Cup, same thing with the Stanley Cup. I can't get over the fact that they're there, and the mere fact that they started where they did and they ended where they did. So I'm having a good time. And Florida State's in the final. So what could I want more than that?
Is that a one-game proposition? Is that
No,
taking place tonight?
It's a series.
Three.
Best of three. Okay.
Best of three.
And the first game is tonight. Your Florida State Seminoles softball team, women's softball team, going against Oklahoma. Oh, Oklahoma.
But beating Oklahoma twice is going to be hard.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma's a monster, but Florida State, I mean, played very, very well. I saw a couple of their plays highlighted actually on the top plays of the day on ESPN, and some incredible defensive plays.
They show the shirt slap play.
Yes.
Yeah.
The snap. That was freaking ridiculous.
That was great. Yeah. No, that's some good stuff. I have I've grown to have great respect for your thoughts about women's softball here, Tony Segreto. Not just because we love you, but the game is played at a caliber that these women are making catches that you could only dream about making, even at the peak of your game as a baseball player, as a young kid. And women were far away from being able to do that when I was growing up. So it really is spectacular to see that kind of progress. All right. Yeah, I mean, we look like we're going to be dead wrong. Were you aware that Wayne Newton was alive? I don't know. Did you watch the beginning of that game? Would you have said dead or alive, Wayne Newton, if I had thrown that out there?
I say dead.
Yeah, me too. Lubie said, no, Wayne Newton, what are you talking about, Defo? He's fucking
He's
dead.
gotta
Why don't you have Liberace ring this time?
He's got to be 100 years old.
That's what
81.
He's 81. Stop. You guys are the
It's
worst.
nothing. Right? He's a kid.
Mayo said he's 120.
81 as a kid. Okay, we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, to me now, I mean, the number is blinking on the board, Tony. I'm coming in on 72, and I'm thinking, geez, I remember watching as a kid. I guess he was a 16-year-old Wayne Newton, or was he even younger than that? When Ed Sullivan, couldn't get the Beatles or the Stones to come on the show, and then they would try to push this fat guy with a high pitched and not even a particularly appealing voice, and he's up there singing some bullshit in French. Dankeschön.
Meantime, now he owns Vegas. Now he owns it. Now he owns Vegas.
Owns Vegas. Shortly after he owned Vegas, it was amazing what this guy did. Huh?
My God. Dankeschön.
Would you have paid money to see him after watching him on Ed Sullivan to go to the Aladdin?
No.
And you got to go buy the pictures of you and the wife in the booth there.
Oh my God!
I don't even want to see him, and she says, "Come on, Tony."
I would rather get a shot of the horse or something like that.
Yeah. All right. So the Newton thing was big. That is, I mean, that could it be the greatest sporting atmosphere out there today? That whole business there, and the games in the Toyota Center, I guess it is in Las Vegas.
No, listen, Las Vegas does it right. And, when they put teams in there to begin with, I thought to myself, wow, that's so odd. But now, they celebrate each game as a championship.
Yes. The party's ridiculous.
They could be playing the Kraken in November, and it's like that. Yeah,
they could be.
That's the beauty of that place.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do these kids get tickets, man? My friend who bets $500,000 a game on the Super Bowl.
I don't know. I don't know how
he can't get tickets. Our friend Sheldon G. You probably know the guy, Sheldon Glass. He was always at Gulfstream Park, and a real gentleman. And he watches the show, and we're so proud of that because the guy's getting up at like 4 a.m. to watch this. And his wife is even bringing it into question now. Like, you purchased this equipment to watch this junk? But he was saying, I mean, imagine this. You're going in there and you go, hey, Lou, man, I'd like to go to the hockey game, huh? I'm on, the tab here. I probably pushed like 20 million through your windows during the course of the year. And they goes, man, I don't know. I'll see if I can get some nosebleed. But
the kids can get the tickets. And they'll sit in the nosebleeds and easily, and they make their way down.
These kids, they were on the glass. I don't know you can do that anymore, Tony. Back in the day, you could. I don't know. Did you
can
make
Yankee
your
Stadium
and for $1, you give an usher. Put you in the front row. It didn't matter. Some smart ass kid, knew enough to bribe a guy. I don't like to use that word, but to say, give a guy some enticement to go ahead and do you a favor. Yeah. Which was great. All right, so now the Heat are winners in Denver. They're 1-1. Denver was dominating the game for the most part, and yet they ended up on the losing end. And the Heat opened up like 11, 12 points in the last few minutes of the game. Almost saw that lead evaporate. What do you think? What do you think tonight, Tony Segreto?
I like tonight. I like them tonight. I like them tonight. I love them tonight. I think that Butler learned that he's got to be more aggressive. And that they got to play as a team. And the 3 games they let him get away from they let it get away from themselves and against Boston. They're not going to let that happen again. And I think that I was like the 28% of the people, or 40% of the people that thought Denver would sweep this thing.
Oh, jeez.
I didn't see them sweeping, but I thought they would win in 5. That was our prediction.
And now I got to wonder.
Yeah, you
Now-
sound Mayo.
Yeah. You're
Well, no,
waffling
now
like
I
Mike
wonder.
Mayo here. I mean, who's probably eating a waffle as we speak.
Now I wonder. They just started playing lights out in the fourth quarter.
That was great.
Actually, fourth quarters.
Go ahead, Lubie.
No, both fourth quarters is actually, even game one where they sucked, they were great in the fourth quarter. They dominated the fourth quarter. Actually, they almost made that a game.
Yeah. So I just think if they can make that for 3 or 4 quarters, that they got this game, under lock and key.
All right. Will you be getting out to a Texas Roadhouse location tonight to consume some steak? I mean, no, you're a big fan of the salmon there, man. I have to say, you really do stick to the discipline of trying to eat a healthy diet. Whereas I can be easily persuaded to eat things that are not particularly, recommended by the Center for Disease Control.
I try to, but truly, if you go to Texas Roadhouse and you're not a meat eater, salmon's the way to go, or the trout. The trout is outstanding, and they get it flash frozen, brought in, and they just I don't know what they do to it, but they do something to it that tastes
I think a little almondine, is in the order there. So always tried almondine. I can't help but think about the American Sportsman, though, whenever I think about trout. And for some reason, it doesn't appeal to me, to have like some whole fish fried in a pan by 3 drunks with Phil Harris and Bing and Kurt Gowdy.
Well, you don't know, they don't do that there.
Yeah.
But
Is that 3 drunks cooking your fish?
Yeah.
But
the salmon,
I hope not for Ed Garcia's sake. I can't
the
imagine.
salmon there is outstanding.
Remember they were always frying up a freaking trout in a pan on that show.
Okay.
They had just caught on a fly rod.
Where did we lose control of the show already? Already we lost control. I can't believe it. I have only been on 8 minutes, 9 minutes. But the salmon's the way to go if you're like fish. Now, if you like meat, there's no way you can not try the ribs or the big steak. And their sides are so great, and everything is homemade.
Yep.
What more could you want? I mean, what more could you want? And the sticker price is
man, no,
scary. That's for sure.
Throwback prices.
And the bread.
Oh, you love that, man. I mean, the lore of it. I did catch that, though, Tony. You're right. Because all of a sudden you think you're at some Italian bakery in Sicily.
Exactly.
And you're like, wow, where's that coming from?
Well, not just the bread, but the
aroma.
Yeah. Yeah, the aroma, the desserts, everything is homemade. And listen, when we say let's go try it, what do you have to lose? If
the atmosphere
you have nothing to lose. The atmosphere is great.
Margaritas.
This time of year, margaritas are huge. They're homemade.
What was that you were drinking that night? Bourbon?
Bourbon.
Oh, nice. Tony, you have a strong constitution, I have to say. I was very impressed.
I love it.
Yeah.
Lubie
was borderline bomb. Not that he was, going to be intoxicated and drive, but you hold on. I mean, and I'm looking, going, that's about like Tony's 4th bourbon there, isn't it? And they were straight up. I mean, like 4 finger jobs.
Yeah, being Italian has a lot to do with it.
All right. Well, I hope you're right, Tony, about the Miami Heat. Texas Roadhouse, we know you're right about. And your optimism is always appreciated and applauded here on the program because it tends to offset some of the negativity and the paranoia that we usually express.
Well, what a surprise! I tend to give the optimism at the end of the day.
Yes, no, I mean, it's greatly appreciated because we need people like you. There are not enough Tony Segretos in this world. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
Where everybody's always upset about everything, and you're never satisfied. I mean, just look at the bright side. And so when is that game? That's tonight, right? Oklahoma and Florida State.
Oklahoma, Florida State tonight.
Okay, and that's being televised.
It's
ESPN. It's on an hour before the Pete game, so you can switch back and forth.
All right, what's the average time of a women's softball game? Like, is it 2 hours?
2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Oh yeah, it takes 2.5. Okay,
so they'll be done by 9 o'clock.
A very fast-moving Marlins game last night in terms of time.
Look at your Marlins.
And yet it seemed like it was at such a pedantic dawdling. I mean, pathetically slow
They're
pace.
just awful.
It's going to take me a little while to transition back into baseball, and I love baseball like you do. I mean, I really do. I can enjoy a baseball game.
I thought the clock would help the Marlins, but God Almighty,
it's just compared to hockey and basketball, the pace seems like incredibly slow, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's not even close. Not even close.
All right, we love you, Tony. It's great seeing you, and we'll talk again next week.
Yep, and we'll try to get a little more time.
And let's try and get the Panthers. Let's try and get the Panthers going as well.
Cats.
Yeah, and we'll talk to you again next Wednesday. Thanks so much, Tony.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, Tony Segreto, ladies and gentlemen. Tony doing well, man.
Looks good.
He's in there, yeah. All right, we're coming back with more. We got a lot more. You want to go back in that flaming editorial about the Live Tour? What a bunch of scumbags. You're scumbags, PGA.
I just think it's...
How many times are you going to hear that?
It's just how quick it happened. Look, at some point you never know, and the Saudis come with a ton of money. It's hard to say no, fine. But it wasn't like 5 years down the road. It was like, it just happened, and the Live was a disaster. It's not even like, oh, wow, the Live is really working out well. PJ, you need to be worried. Like, the Live was a disaster. Like
disaster. Nobody gave a flying one about them. And they were still watching PGA tournaments with great interest. Why? Because some of the big stars, I mean, you don't think they tried to entice Scotty Scheffler to move over to the Live Tour
100%.
there?
Yeah, 100%.
How much money did this cat turn down? If Ricky Fowler, who, a lot of people think, unfortunately, I guess he's had some better results of late. Is that true, Lubie? I want to say yes to that.
I know
Ricky Fowler.
Early.
And I'm a Ricky Fowler fan like you are. You're a big Ricky Fowler fan. I like the kid. I mean, he brought a little flash to the game. He seems like a pretty cool guy. The way he handles himself. Some people don't like him because they think, oh, well, geez, he never really delivers. But, he's come through in some spots. And would you say he's had a good career, Ricky Fowler?
It's been underwhelming because he was supposed to...
He's supposed to be the next Tiger.
But I think he had a better career than the way his last few years went. Like the way we think of Ricky Fowler as a guy that always came up short. I don't know if that's so fair to him. He started out with guns a-blazing, and then you thought it would just keep ascending, and it sort of plateaued and then went down.
I actually pulled a Sarnie when I first came across Ricky Fowler, and I'm perusing channels one day, and I'm on the Golf Channel, which I believe was relatively new at the time, and Ricky Fowler was in a tour card qualifying event. And they were, touting how great this guy was going to be. And he did. I guess he got his tour card there and was on the tour shortly thereafter. But, they couldn't have had much more hyperbole for Ricky Fowler and what kind of career he was going to have. So from that standpoint, maybe not so successful.
That's the thing.
Yeah. But they offered him $75 million at this stage of his career, not knowing if he was ever going to amount to anything. Holy Jacob deGrom, what are we talking about here? How about that, too? Wow. We were talking about how sometimes, the GM, the contract or whatever, piece of paper shows up on the owner's desk and he goes, I don't care that I own Walmart. You're paying this guy $185 million to throw 6 innings of Major League Ball? Imagine that. And how suspect was deGrom anyway? Lubie, the Mets, I don't know what they offered him in their attempt to retain him, if they did. But didn't you have to let that guy go for big money? If he was going to require that kind of capital to make the acquisition, how could you possibly give it to him? $185 million over 5 years, and the guy, there's a good chance he never pitches again. I don't mean to, put any kind of a dark cloud over this guy, but at best he's coming back at the tail end of 2024. Holy James Andrews. And where is James Andrews on all of these surgeries? Is he finished, Lubie? Dr. James Andrews.
His 80s as well, or late.
Oh, he's in his 80s?
He's not. There's no way I see him leading the charge on these surgeries, but I presume he's still involved.
You think? His name is never mentioned. Who is the hot, orthopedic surgeon now in professional sports?
He's 80 years old.
80 years old? Would you trust an 80-year-old doctor?
We have an 80-year-old.
Like Doc from fucking Gunsmoke would be more trustworthy, wouldn't he? Here, bite on this. As they're carving a bullet out of your ass. Those are, you talk about alchemy. What were they practicing there? Kitty, get us some hot water. Right? They send the sucker up to that was some concept for a show. Was Little House on the Prairie like this, Lubie? You have this interview set up for our Believe podcast with Melissa Gilbert.
Yep.
And she's resurrected on what? Back to the Prairie?
She's an author. She wrote best-selling book before. She wrote now a recent book about, I guess, her going from there to the life during COVID, where she was like, I guess, more isolated. And so she's an author now, a well-known author. So we're gonna talk to her. But the House on the Prairie is a show my dad, like when I was growing up, and it was old and it was just in like syndication. My dad would watch it every night. It was
Who else was in that besides Michael Landon and Marilyn Olsen?
Landon, Olsen, Gilbert, who went on to be pretty decent. I mean, I think
all right.
Career. I don't know. I just remember like John Boy, the guy who played John Boy. I think had
that guy, yeah.
He played it. He had a nice
he's annoying, yeah. Walton, is that his name? No, that was the Waltons was the show. Yeah, what is that guy? I mean, he's one of those guys you just you never wanted as a friend.
See, I confuse the Waltons with Little House on the Prairie. The Waltons were the show my dad loved as well. Like when I was growing up, there were two shows around.
I don't know that I was a huge Little House on the Prairie.
Well, it was very wholesome, and you grew up in an era where like you wanted to go against.
Gangster movies, yeah.
Well, no, and also like hippies, and you were like all into that, and against Vietnam and this and that. Little House on the Prairie and the Waltons was like, let's get back to
represented. Everything we despise.
And the beavers, leave it to Beaver and all that, like that whole like let's be wholesome and the nuclear American family. And it was like, no.
As you would imagine, my favorite character on Leave It to Beaver was Eddie Haskell.
Yeah, exactly. The guy was an asshole. He was like always trying to pull him over.
All right, Tony would tell you too. Texas Roadhouse restaurants, right on the money, man. Did we have a great experience there, or what?
Oh no, that was great. I can't wait till we get back in there. The food's tremendous.
Mayo, who tends to sneer at these kind of chain restaurants, which is fine, but he even said, "Hey, man, I couldn't believe this place. It was great for the money too. That's another thing. If you're going out for a steak dinner, I mean, really, can you afford to have a family of four get whacked for like $400 or $500?
No, and the quality and the like the pricing, the quality, the fact that everything it's not like I think it's like literally 99% of everything is homemade. Like that's not a joke. Like I watched
cut beef, everything.
Like, I mean, homemade. Like that's what to me sets them apart from a lot of chains because that's the whole point of a chain is just get it out there. They treat every individual restaurant like it's mom and pop in a sense. It is homemade from the bread to the dressings. They cut the meat there in-house. Like, it's a very different.
They do a great job, yeah. No doubt. I mean, real good. I have to say, I throw this in. Remember DeSalvo's when I was around? I don't know if they still have it.
I don't know if they still exist. There used to be one in Plantation right by my house. The place was great.
Yeah, but Sicilian Oven, I was in there last night, and they do a great job. They really do.
That's her favorite Italian. She loves Sicilian.
I love the Sicilian salad. Like if I'm in the mood for a salad, you have a few places you could go and you pay like sometimes $17, $19 for a salad, and then it's underwhelming. I used to love the Beverly Hills Cafe when I was around. Do they still have any of those left? That was like the best salad you could get.
The salad and the rolls.
None left? They're done completely?
Oh, yeah, they've been gone for a long time.
And the rolls were fantastic.
We broke our Passover every year at Beverly Hills because my mom, their rolls were her favorite. In the
one on Sheridan Street?
No, there was one by us in Plantation off of Cleary.
Okay, yeah. That was my go-to place whenever I was deciding, hey, I was going to, try and maybe shed a few pounds. Get on one of those salad kicks, but I loved it. I mean, you look so forward to it, and then you could, guzzle down a couple of those rolls. It was hard to eat less than a couple, and it's the same thing. Texas Roadhouse with, as Tony says, the fresh baked bread and that honey butter, man, unbelievable. So they start you out right, and then I couldn't believe it. Right, wasn't the bone-in ribeye like was it $29 or something like that?
Something. And it was legit bone-in ribeye.
Yes,
it's like 56.
I mean, legit. It was good.
It was great.
I mean, it wasn't quite like what you would get for $95 at, Gordon Ramsay Steak in Atlantic City. But, nonetheless, I mean, when you consider that you could have got 3 of them for the same price, an unbelievable bargain.
The cooks you wanted and they didn't fight you. I mean, that was a win. Like, they didn't yell at you and tell you were wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine that. I'm in a pissing fight with Gordon Ramsay at one of his restaurants. That is not rare, Gordon. I don't care.
You can tell.
How could you serve this to the public like this? Right? You're a disgrace to the culinary industry. Wouldn't it be great to have Gordon Ramsay just cursing in your face? How great would that be?
That'd be a blast.
I mean, we were like having Rickles rank you out. or insult you. It would be an honor to be insulted by you. Thank you very much. All right, we're coming back with more, and there's optimism there on the Miami Heat. I don't know. I have a funny feeling, and this is bad to say, that they're going to win tonight.
I know that's my problem. My dad was like,
yeah. Why do I feel uneasy about that?
Oh, because the Nuggets are still the better team. I hate it when they said that about the Celtics because I thought it was a lot more even. I admit this roster is better. It just is. When you look at, look, their bench sucks, actually. I think Jeff Green wouldn't even – the Heat bench actually is better than their bench at this point.
Yeah.
But their starting five is vastly superior. But the way Spoelstra can coach, scheme it up, and the way that this team actually can play defense in a way that the Nuggets can't. Like, the Nuggets don't have defenders. I don't think one guy on their team.
They appear confused defensively against the simplest of concepts on offense.
So that's my thing. Is like the Heat at least can play both ends where the Nuggets don't. They're elite offensively, but they look bottom of the barrel defensively. That gives the Heat some kind of an edge. So we'll see if they keep taking advantage of it.
Yeah, and we'll also see. I mean, it was an Angelo Dundee thing. He always said to me, you don't know how good a fighter is until he loses.
Yep.
Which I don't know, if they never lost, like Floyd Money Mayweather, you would say, or Rocky Marciano, well, then good. We'll never know how good he's going to be because the guy's freaking great.
Yeah.
But, that's a big thing in sports. How do you respond to a loss? And we'll see how Denver does. I mean, that they fell asleep at the beginning of the fourth quarter, just absolutely went into the tank. And then they couldn't scramble back as much as they tried. And you saw they do have the ability to do that. And the Heat are also suspect in large stretches as well. Like when they fell behind by 15 points and then subsequently almost coughed up, a 12-point lead with 3 minutes to go? Unbelievable. Nearly coughed that up.
I know.
So not much disparity between these two teams. There's not that much of a margin of difference in reality, as you've been pointing out throughout the playoffs, that no matter what, and every roster is perceived to be better than the Miami Heat's. Because of this unknown factor? Where you didn't know that Caleb Martin was an emerging star? We don't know. And in the last two games, if that's all you saw, you would say, who's Caleb Martin? But he was sick. And that's why this thing with Spoelstra being a genius and the Kevin Love insertion into the starting lineup, is that not questionable, Lubie?
I mean, it's fine.
It happened by accident, Lubie.
Yeah, you don't have to give him all the credit in the world. Like, if Martin's healthy, does he still do it? I still think it's a good move regardless, but does he do it otherwise? We don't know.
I don't think so. Why would you? Why would you replace Caleb Martin in the starting lineup unless, he was flat out Michael Jordan out, after eating that bad pizza in Utah? I don't know. You would never take him out of the starting lineup. To do what? I mean, is Caleb Martin incapable? I mean, just for the fact that Kevin Love looks like a slug by comparison. And, you couldn't possibly imagine that Kevin Love would be, an advisable replacement for Caleb Martin at that stage of the postseason when Martin had just gone for 26 against the Boston Celtics one game prior. But, apparently he was not in good shape, which he will be tonight. So that'll be an interesting decision. We'll see what Spoelstra does. I just wonder what kind of pace Denver will come out of the shoot with in the ball game tonight. If they come out and look anything like they did in the fourth quarter, then obviously they're in a pile of shit. But if they start with a spark tonight, I think the Heat are in for a long ride, and that this game will be decided obviously in the final minutes. No,
I want to see what they do defensively. Their coach made it seem like their defense should be better than this. They just didn't play hard, which I don't know what to do with that. I'd like to see this defense that he thinks they have that I've yet to see in the playoffs.
All right, we'll find out. We'll talk some more about that. This PGA thing, very disturbing. I think the sports world should be shaken up. Is because people expect this of the pompous and presumptuous nature of the golf tour and the way they, as what would you say? I mean, pretentious is what I meant to say. Nature of the golf tour that nobody cares. You would expect this of these uppity people. Yeah, what do they care about the average soul out there? To stomp and spit on the graves of the 9/11 people by Jay Monahan is a disgrace, though. And I would think it was about 50 million, no? What do you think the amount of money was that
Oh,
he got greased with?
personally, I mean, look, Mr. Mama and I were talking.
You don't think this Ramajan guy or whatever his name is, said, how much will it take, Jay?
Oh, no, 100%. I mean, it's money for all of them. But that's the thing is, it's not just Jay. There must be a board, and I'm sure the board got paid well. I'm sure everyone high up got paid well to make the players look this bad after all they did. And all this, the grandstanding, not only the PGA did, but the players, it wasn't grandstanding. The players were being honest. The players were actually being principled for once in their goddamn lives. And we're turning down loads and loads of money. You now leave them out. You hang them out to dry. I mean, that's what the PGA did. The PGA literally hung out their own players to dry. You're not incorporating them into the process. You're not discussing it with them. What we've heard, Greg Norman, who was a key cog in starting the league, wasn't even involved. Like, that's... Like,
he didn't know. No, he found out like an hour before. Yeah.
Both sides did it. Like the Live got guys to go against their principles. The PGA got guys to stick with their principles, and both tours spit in their guys' faces. I'm curious to see how the hell this works. Like you're just okay, everything's fine now. Which I'm sure they'll do it. That's what people once money is factored in, people seem to just forget reality. It's just I find it interesting that they could just within a month ago or 2 weeks ago be so defiant. Both sides, remember, both sides hated each other. The Live hated the PGA. The PGA hated the Live. Now they're just going to be brothers and family and cuddle.
Brothers in arms, my friend.
I think that's a load of garbage.
I mean, Jay Monahan makes Sepp Blatter look like Johnny Appleseed at this point. Does he not? I mean, it's just a pillar of virtue. Was Appleseed a pillar of virtue? I don't know where I got that one from.
Yeah, that was Johnny Appleseed.
Yeah, Johnny Appleseed, man. Like he was a good guy, right?
I think.
Blatter, I mean, with that money he took from Qatar, or Qatar, or whatever the pronunciation is. I mean, he seems like almost saintly, does he not? Unscrupulous? That's not really a word that you could associate with Jay Monahan. It seems despicable. It just does. It reeks. And yet, how much money you would have to think to keep these negotiations in secret like that, to where not even Tiger Woods, Big Jack had no idea. Big Jack. No idea, right? He's at the memorial. It's a great day for the PGA. I tell you what, those Live cocksuckers. And now even Big Jack is placated. If it's good for the game of golf. I'm sorry, Big Jack. How much of Golden Bear or whatever that is, what was the name of his golf company?
Yeah, isn't it
Golden Bear?
Yeah, something like that.
Those golf balls that went like 20 yards less than any other that you would hit. And you're thinking, Big Jack, your name's on this fucking thing. Huh? How much did it take to keep? Apparently, they were screaming like at Monahan when they found out about this. But to leave those guys out to dry like that, how do you turn around and justify that?
I'm curious how
we'll all be making more money. Is that what finally ended the meeting in an amicable fashion? I don't know. Anyway, that was a wild story. I thought it was a hoax. I literally thought that Mayo had sent me something that had the New York Times logo on it. That was a complete and utter hoax.
Like the Onion.
Turned out to be true. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Coco, by the way, now facing a break point, set one against Swiatek, while trailing 4-3. So she needs to stave off this break here and try and even this thing up at 4 apiece in the first set. But hanging in there against the world number one. It is 8:39. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in Style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodzie, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
Hear me. I am your new president. From this day on, the official language of San Marcos will be Swedish. Silence! In addition to that, all citizens will be required to change their underwear every half hour. Underwear will be worn on the outside so we can check. Furthermore, all children under 16 years old are now 16 years old.
What's the Spanish word for straitjacket? Power has driven him mad.
Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Again, Ron DeSantis campaign headquarters releasing more audio clips of his latest speech in Iowa as he seeks election for the presidency in 2024. You think these guys that are way behind Trump in the run for the Republican nomination for president are thinking that it doesn't matter what his lead is right now in the polls, that he won't be able to run because
He'll be in prison. Yeah, I
he'll
mean,
be under major indictments.
someone else turned yesterday. Well, another one of his people. Like at some point, like I don't care how much you're behind the guy.
Yeah.
There's so many things against him. One of these things has to stick. I mean, whether he ends up in an actual prison or house or whatever it is, he's going to go to jail. I mean, there's just so much things against him, and they're real things, and they have video, and they have audio, and they have witnesses, and they have everything you need. Like, I don't give a shit that he was president or not. He did these things before and during his presidency that, yes, it feels like that because there's no other reason. DeSantis is down by so much, and it's been an utter failure even before he even announced his name. That most people, he already has a gig. He's the governor. I mean, he's abominating it. He's totally.
I think he's doing a great job. What are you talking about?
I'm sure, but he's a total abomination what he's done with our state. But he has that job. You would think, why would you put yourself out there? But yes, it feels
well, and also these money people that are backing him are not foolish. They probably can't anticipate this, unlike the fact that we had no idea that this Live Tour PGA merger was about to take place. And as they say, Lefty told me this a long time ago, a loan shark that used to be at Calder Racecourse all the time and the other racetracks around. Very friendly guy. And if you needed money, okay, it was going to be 6 points a week. But for you, Defo, only 5. He said the worst rat in the world right here, the telephone.
Oh,
absolute worst rat in the world. And Trump hasn't bought into that concept yet. He's on tape, negotiating deals with Putin to build a hotel. It's insane.
Everything he does has a paper.
Everything he does was tapped. I mean, it's incredible.
like it's the opposite of what you do.
He's calling from the White House phone. What do you think? They're not going to have recordings of this? What are you, Richard Nixon? Get out of here. Make sure that's on delete there, Lubie. By the way, Coco staves off the break. Comes back, wins that game, and now is faux Moses Malone in the first set against Swiatek, and showing some real mental fortitude here as she now is up 15-30 in Swiatek's subsequent service game. So there you have it, my friend. Tennis play-by-play right here on the show. That'd be something, though. If she could beat Swiatek. And the other semifinal involving the women is this Mukova, who has played very well, going against our own, Miami's own, Aryna Sabalenka of Belarus, who has been dynamite for almost all of the season, except for one blip, where I think it was in Rome, and she got eliminated in the first round by Sophia Kenin, who had to qualify to be in the tournament, who used to be very good, another local tennis product, but had fallen off the map of late. That thing where the father or the mother is the coach, how do you feel about that, Lubie?
Well, I don't get under.
Doesn't it seem a little strange? Yeah.
I get doing that when you're little. Like I coach my nephew, but like if he got onto AAU,
yes,
I wouldn't be. Uncle Mike wouldn't be coaching him anymore. Like he'd have a guy that is a lot more established as a coach coaching him.
But we've seen it in boxing many, many times, where the father is in the corner there, and sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't.
No, but yeah, okay, is the father like a coach? Like that's a different story. Like if
He's
you're
a trainer, in that case, and as the lead trainer and the voice that's in the corner. I mean, you see it with many fighters.
but like
And
with a guy
sometimes it works, and sometimes Danny Garcia being a classic example, where his father is a complete asshole, or so it seems at all of these press conferences. And Danny Garcia seems like a mild mannered, reasonably decent guy, and yet you think of him in a negative light because the old man's involved, and you're thinking, the stuff he says in the corner, you wouldn't even know that this guy was his own son. You would think he hated his own son. You're a loser. You're a chump. No, I don't know that he does that, but we've seen where it has caused great divides also with families, and you see it in tennis, right? I mean, I'm sure it's a great relationship, and it seems very honorable now. But what was Andy Murray's mother a little bit too much of a presence, maybe,
Oh, I don't know.
in this man's life, or is it a good thing, Libby? I could not have had my mother be my coach.
I think look, if they're an established coach, it's okay at some point. But even then, I don't know, it's just awkward.
Can you imagine, Libby?
No.
They would motivate by total negativity, no doubt about it. It's like my invention of the dashboard rabbi, where they navigate you by negativity and say, well, what are you turning here for, you jerk? Instead of at the corner, make a right in 1,000 feet. Just the opposite, whatever is going on. All right, I'm glad you're optimistic, Lubie. I don't know what's going to happen in this game tonight. I won't pretend to have any kind of clairvoyant view. I'm thinking Denver probably comes out and looks sharp in the beginning of the game, so they'll get slaughtered. So take the Heat in the first half, and I don't know that the Heat can possibly shoot at that level again, which would be my concerning factor in terms of trying to predict the outcome of the game. That they were so hot in the fourth quarter that is unlikely to happen again for that long of a stretch, and that we're more likely to see more of a version of the team that was falling apart in the last 3 minutes of the game, and that Denver will find some way to get a little bit better in terms of converting shots by people other than Nikola Jokic in this game. They do need to get some contributions from other sources, no doubt. And I don't know about that. Did Spoelstra design this defense so that, they're making a big deal about Jokic only having 4 assists. But, and I don't know how many potential assists he could have had. I mean, the guy could have thrown a couple of brilliant passes and they just missed a shot. You don't get an assist on a missed basket. So no matter how great of a pass it might have been, if the people are not converting, he who makes shots win game.
There you go.
Then, his assist total, was it bogus because guys just missed wide open shots off of his passes?
I mean, no. I mean, they were.
He wasn't as influential in terms of getting guys wide open shots. I don't think maybe that's part of it.
They weren't leaving the shooters. They weren't double teaming him, and they weren't leaving the shooters. And so they were saying, "Look, score," and not that they want him to score because the dude is as good a scorer as we have in the NBA, but him as a facilitator is even scarier because then you don't know what you're doing because then he can score and pass. If you just don't leave the role players or the other guys on the team and just make him shoot.
And they were making him work for these baskets, even though he made a phenomenal percentage.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like he had to work harder. And again, the guys weren't open from the past two. The game one, the Heat were a little bit discombobulated defensively, and he was able to find guys open. They were able to hit shots, and he was also able to find cutters. Like that wasn't the case in game two. I don't know if it's them not cutting as much as Malone made it seem. They just weren't. They were just not energized, whatever the hell that means. I think the Heat defense played a little bit differently. And then they went to the zone a little bit more. They went to the zone a little bit more often. And that actually not only because usually that's something they're trying to do when Jokic isn't out there. They did when Jokic was out there. And it worked. Now, again, I don't think that would work long term. I think Jokic, the fact that he can run sort of the point guard from the top of the key, he would annihilate a zone. So I'm thinking the zone was just something they threw out there until it stopped working. And if you're smart and you're the Heat, I would scale that back in this game because I think Jokic is going to have a goddamn field day if they really try to stick to that zone.
I want to see as many minutes of Jokic one-on-one with Cody Zeller as we can possibly get in this game. That'll be part of the in-game entertainment. Is it because I just like watching physical abuse where he just bowls over Zeller, and it's exacerbated by the fact that Zeller is wearing that facial mask because it makes it look even more bizarre. And Cody Zeller obviously has been maybe wisely advised by some dermatologists never to go out in the sun. Can you be a white Miami Heat player and be any more pale than Cody Zeller? It's kind of like when Neil Walk had the hairiest back besides Paul McKeskey in the history of the NBA, where you just notice this is the whitest white guy in the NBA. Is he not? Cody Zeller. So just illustrates it even more deeply, the mismatch there, because you're looking at a guy that looks like he doesn't belong on the court, and then you're looking at Quasimodo and Converse there, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and he's scoring at will on this Heat opposition, and that's only going to last a few minutes before Spoelstra, just rips into his bench and says, "Somebody get out there and guard this guy." Anybody looking for volunteers?
Like, it's not Zeller's fault.
They got to put Haslam in the game, don't they? I mean, don't they need shouldn't UD get a couple of minutes in the finals? What do you say, Lubie? No?
I don't think he wants to go out there. They had a chance earlier in the playoffs when they were dominating, and they called for him to go out there, and he said, "No, my time's done. It's their time." Like, I think that last home game where he had 21 and 10, and it was like a calling card game for him. I think that was his last game. I think he was saying, "Look, I'm done. Like, let these guys."
That was it. Hang up the sneakers. It's over. Goff goes down. Swiatek breaks in her game to try to get to 5-5, and now has the first set 6-4. So Coco Gauff trying to make the semifinals at the French Open, down a set to Iga Swiatek, who, she's a relentless machine. It's Secretariat in the Belmont Stakes, my friend. So that's going to be tough, no doubt. Trying to rally and win now 2 sets after being one down against this woman, who the great ones, they just turn it on at the right time, don't they?
Well, especially in tennis.
Yes,
tennis, it's crazy to watch, like a Nadal or back in the day Sampras or even a Steffi Graf one, and they're
when they really need it, they know how to dig down and go and get it. It's pretty remarkable how that works, and there's so little to separate. And at this point, too, you would have to say it's remarkable again, because we have said the same thing virtually in every series except the Knicks series, that or the general public has said this and the media has said this. You have been the one active voice saying that the Heat are not paling in comparison to any of these rosters. They're not as horrible as people make them out to be. I think some of that perception is justifiably coming out of the regular season, when you would have discounted Lowry and Duncan Robinson from any conversation, and I don't think that Greg Vincent had distinguished himself to the level that he has in the postseason. Gabe Vincent, right? Not Greg Vincent.
Vincent was in the regular season, but he wasn't this. It wasn't scoring 19 night.
And he wasn't a dynamic presence like that, where you're going, wow, man, I hope they get the ball in Vincent's hands, and if they do, let's hope he shoots.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're rooting for, you're like, oh, thank God Vincent's shooting.
Yeah.
I don't remember saying that.
Caleb Martin, the same thing, although Caleb Martin so far in the series has been non-productive, but has the legitimate excuse of not feeling well. Heat crowd tonight, you would think what would be a big inspiration for him. I don't know that the Tyler Hero story is as big of a deal as people are making it. Yes, it would be an extra asset.
I would just want him out there. I just want to give the Nuggets something else to think about. I don't think that there's any point where he's going to be a major factor. He hasn't played in almost 2 months. It's just the idea of him going out there, and that's someone else they have to account for. Like, that's what I would want, but I guess he's not ready. He's just not.
I'm going to run some props by you here.
Okay.
In just a moment here on the show as we close things out, all right? A lot of props on tonight's game. In fact, there's an entire column. You have like 8 columns across in a newspaper? An entire column dedicated to prop bets on this. And then, I guess the bottom part is favorites to win the RBC Canadian Open. I don't know that I can look at this anymore, Lubie, after yesterday's development. It's disgusting, isn't it? Rory McIlroy is favored. You think he's seething so much inside of Jay Monahan that he goes out there and fires a series of 63s? And I think he won the Canadian Open last year. I want to say that McIlroy was the winner there, that he does very well at the RBC Canadian Open, which is this week. And then it's next week, right? The U.S. Open? Wow, Lubie. Unbelievable. Yeah, I think it's a week after. All right, we're coming back to close things out. We'll run some props by Lubie and give you a chance to go the other way in a moment. Now that.
The time.
8:54.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Are you all in stable but critical condition? Is that the way all life is, Lubie? In a general, more figurative sense? Would you say you're in stable but critical condition? I believe you are right now.
Probably.
On the threshold of getting married in the early portion of 2021. Don't you think it's a little soon, kid? You barely noticed one. What are you doing?
We've been together 4 years.
Well, I guess you know enough.
How longer do you want her to put up with me?
Is it you that's pushing for this?
It's equal. We're both very happy and in love. It's very gross.
Oh, my God. I mean, it's a foreign concept. You have to understand where I'm coming from. 0 for 2 with a walk. And, right now I think I got a 3-2 count in the marriage number 3. But, and only because of the benefit of a really poor call on a ball that was clearly right down the middle of the plate. You know, one of those Angel Hernandez calls. Get out of here.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
All right, here we go. A little flash round here. A little lightning round, Lubie. On prop bets, Mike Lubie Lubitz. You ready? Okay, the Nuggets now are minus 275 to win the series. 275 you have to lay to win 100 to win the series. Heat plus 220. You were getting 4-1, 3-1 on the Heat before, so that's diminished some. And you had to lay 4-1 on the Nuggets. Which way are you going on that? Nuggets minus 275, Heat plus 220.
Oh, I don't know. I'd rather not touch it. I was leaning Nuggets in 6. I mean, I guess I'll stay that way. I just, if the Heat can shoot like they did in the last game, I think they'll win the series in 6. I just
all right, Heat in 6, you get plus 550. Would you take that?
I don't know if they'll do that.
Heat in 6.
It's a big question mark. I would still lean Nuggets in 6, but
Nuggets in 6. All right.
I said at the beginning, I'm not going to change it now. It's 1-1. I'm not going to
Nuggets in 6 is the strongest price you can get on the Nuggets in terms of trying to predict the number of games in this series. At plus 325, but it's only a slight margin. Nuggets in 7 is plus 225. Nuggets in 5 plus 300. All right, let's go to some in-game props, because that's where you make your money if you're on FanDuel and DraftKings. You want to bet as many of these as possible. I mean, we don't want to bury America like the rest of the world seems to want to do. Okay, so points in this game, over, under. Are you ready, Lubie?
Sure.
Jokic, over, under, 28 and a hook.
Oh, over.
Jimmy Butler, over, under, 25 and a hook.
He hasn't done it yet. I've been waiting for him to do it. I'll be positive. I'll say over, I guess, because he was close last game. He had 21. I mean.
Jamal Murray, over, under, 24 and a half.
See, he has to be. You would think he'd be better. Last game he finished with like 18, but he was abysmal until that point. I'll say over. He's going to come out.
Over Jamal Murray. Okay.
Yeah.
Bam Adebayo, over, under, 18 and a half.
Oh, over 18. I mean, they're giving wide open shots.
Okay, that seems logical. Michael Porter, over, under, 14 and a hook. He hasn't been doing it.
He's struggling, and I think he's going to struggle.
Gabe Vincent, over, under, 13 and a hook.
Oh, over. I mean, I don't know if he's going to get 25 or 23, but I could see him getting 16 or 15. I'll say over.
Aaron Gordon, over, under, 12 and a half. Mike Lubie Lubitz.
I'll say under. I mean, that's the one place where you're wrong. Kevin Love actually was inserted more to defend Gordon than to because of Caleb Martin's issues. Caleb Martin couldn't hang with Gordon. Gordon literally had 10 points in the first quarter of game 1 because Caleb Martin's just not big enough. Kevin Love is. And Gordon was a non-factor.
All right, there you have it, as Gordon Sully would say. How about rebounds? You want to speculate on that? I mean, because if we can combine enough of these, we could potentially hit like a 20-element parlay. Should we go for that? Why don't we put one in based on all of your recommendations?
I'm
We'll
doing
go
none of that, but
right down the line here.
I'm not
All
that.
right, we'll do this real quickly here. Jokic over under rebounds 11.5.
I'll say under, even though he probably gets
Under.
15.
Okay.
Maybe they corral more. I don't know. At home, maybe they're.
I think he has to go to the glass more aggressively. I'm going to go over
more, so he'll probably get over. But I'll say under. I've been very over.
Bam, 9 and a hook rebounds. Over under.
I'll say under. I'd rather him have 12 to 15, but I'll probably get like 7 or 8. I'll say under.
Michael Porter Jr. over under 7 and a hook. Same number as Jimmy Butler.
I'll say Butler over. I'll say Porter Jr. under. I mean, he may prove me wrong and finally wake up, but he's been sort of a non-factor so far.
All right. Real quickly to complete this whole cycle here. Assists, only 3 guys to consider here. Jokic over under 9.5 dimes.
Oh, Jesus. Because they expect him to have a big day there. That's a lot.
He knows he has to pick it up, right?
A lot.
I say they hold him under. I'm going to say, maybe 8 assists in this game.
Like, I think he still has more than he had the last game, but it's not hard to do that. He had 4.
Yeah. Okay.
He could have 9 and still be under. I would say under.
All right. He has to go double digits to eclipse the total there. Otherwise, the under players are dancing to the windows with Mike Lubie Lubitz. Jimmy Butler, 6 and a hook on the assists. 6 and a hook, over, under.
I'm hoping over. I'm hoping he continues to be aggressive, both himself and facilitating, because that was huge in game 2. I'll say over.
Okay. Are people, do they have time? Do you have pens at home? Are you able to make notes on the Lubie selections here?
I have no idea.
Okay. All right. And the last one, triple-double for Jokic, triple-double, plus 120.
Well, no, I mean, if we're saying
you win 120 for 100 if you say he does get a triple-double. No triple-double for Jokic, you're saying.
So, no, I mean, if we're saying he gets under double-digit rebounds, then he can't have a triple-double.
Okay, there you go. And Jimmy Butler, 14-1 on a triple-double. Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, has he had one?
I don't think so.
He's been close all playoffs, but I don't think he's actually had. I don't know if he's had one.
All right. There you have it. There's a little guideline for your wagering possibilities. Mike Lubie Lubitz over-unders on a variety of different things. I don't remember any of what you said, but we'll go ahead and try and give an accounting of it tomorrow. All right, let's go Heat. We'll say that. Mike Mayo, 12 o'clock tonight with the Lunchbox. I believe podcast will feature Melissa Gilbert, and I guess I'll look back at the Little House on the Prairie or where she's been since. I don't know. Lubie tried to explain to me what the context of this book was she has out there, which I would imagine will be the focus of the conversation.
Yes.
Although I will have to ask her about the television hair and Michael Landon. If any man has ever had better television hair, I don't think so. All right. See you guys later on, 12 o'clock today. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox with the Gambling Gourmet himself, Mr. Michael Mayo. And for Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks to Tony Segreto, Dave Hyde for joining us. See you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:02.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what the